evening, and ding, 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 ding. Yes, they've propped me up and sent me out for round 6 of Steve Swift's Business of Boxing for core law, live audio wrestling, and also Steve Swift's Rambling Reviews. The cream of the crop of reviews which ramble. And this is number 6. 6! And this week I thought there might be something a bit different, because I always talk about the business of boxing, don't I? And there's always one name that's been in all of those episodes, and that would be Ryangarcia. And I thought that we might not have any Ryangarcia this evening and this week. I thought he might be quiet, which is what I said he should do when he's waiting for his Osterine test. But that's not the case. There is some fairly breaking news about this. So I'll be telling you about it a bit later on. A bit later on, not now, because I want to start with the ability again in consecutive weeks. Subsequent weeks is the wrong phrase. It's not subsequent, it's consecutive. Consecutive weeks. Being able to talk about the business of boxing done correctly. The Catterall and Josh Taylor fight last week, it was last week, wasn't it? Yeah. Was the business of boxing done really well without any of those nasty social media, I'm going to drive over you with a 10-ton truck and then I'm going to micturate all over your remains, all that sort of thing. Without any of that. And with a simmering enmity, so that sold the whole shebang. This is probably a new way to go for selling boxing events where there isn't that much at stake, i.e. belts and people who desperately want to fight each other because they wanted to for ages, and also crowds want them to as well. I'm talking, of course, of the Matchroom versus Queensberry card. So Matchroom, Eddie Hearn's crew, and Queensberry, Frank Warren's crew. And what they did was they said, well, we'll just do a versus. So we'll do 10 fights. Is it 10? A bit less than that. Anyway, not going to talk about the whole card, of course. That would take ages. And I don't have ages. Not at my age, anyway. So, I think it was 10 matches. Anyway, this is probably a way to go, isn't it? Because it's stable versus stable. So you get to see quite a lot of your boxers who are not ready yet for the big time. And also, you get to reintroduce us to some boxers. Oh, yeah, you've got him, haven't you? Remember that, yeah. You also managed to bring some boxers on in fights that don't really matter. Well, it would matter if they lost, of course, but there's not a lot at stake. And the top 2 fights were Filip Hrgović versus Daniel Dubois, and then in the main event, Deontay Wilder versus Zhilei Zhang. Now, let's talk about these 2 very different fights. Let's talk about the Dubois and Hrgović fight first. It was actually not going to be for any kind of marbles, because it was thought that Hrgović was Alexander Usyk's next opponent, and so he would fight him and as for the IBF heavyweight title, and job would be a good one. That's it, all settled up, all done. Don't expect Hrgović to win. Done. However, Usyk has got his eyes firmly fixed on another fight with Tyson Fury, not Mike Tyson. He's not fighting anybody, is he? Not at the moment, and probably not for a while. More of that in a bit. So, what the IBF did, and remember, they may well do this with Canelo's version of his middleweight, IBF title, because he refuses to fight William Skull, who's having a great time talking about this. Seen an interview with him where he said, I'm just an ordinary bloke. So they do get quite tough, and they have, it looks like, gone some way to saying, Alexander, unclip that belt from the 16 others that you've got and give that to me. So the winner of this bout will be the interim IBF heavyweight champion. I nearly called him the IBM heavyweight champion. That would be a sort of a real paper champion, computer paper. Remember that? With the holes in the side. Yeah, weird. Now then, I'm quite old school, you see. I can remember when there were no cars on the road, or people had to walk in front of the cars with big red flags. Anyway, they had something to fight for, and fight they blooming well did. The whole idea of this fight was Hrgović saying, I'm going to come out, and right from the opening bell, I'm going to see if I can batter him out of there. And I haven't really thought past the first 3 rounds. So, first round, battered him. And Dynamite Dubois is easy to hit because he's got no head movement. The whole idea is that he can take a lot of punishment. End of the first round, hadn't got him out of there. End of the second round, hadn't really got him out of there, and Dubois is getting into this fight a bit more. At that point, Hrgović must have thought, I maybe should have really had a plan for the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th rounds. He didn't need that long, folks. He didn't need to plan for that long. So, Dubois came back into the fight after taking... Do you like my beard, by the way? It's got a cavalier look to it now. The laughing... laughing cavalier. Yeah. If he's laughing that much, he certainly doesn't understand the political situation in Britain. Okay. The fight entered the sort of middle rounds, really, and Hrgović, clearly, I think, was gassed. I think he was just tired of shipping so much punishment from Dubois, and also a little bit tired, just generally. And he was cut over both eyes, I think, if I remember rightly. And I think it was the 8th. The doctor said, no. He said to him, what? How many fingers am I holding up? Thursday. No, I don't think so. Or he said to him, how many fingers am I holding up? How many guesses do I get? He didn't say either of those, but the doctor didn't like what he saw and stopped the fight. I'm sure he didn't like what he saw in the next fight as well, but more of that in a minute. I certainly didn't, but this fight was pretty good. I thought that Dubois showed, that he's back again, isn't he? But then, in a way, he did put Usyk down. It was a low blow, but Usyk was put down by Dubois. And so some people were saying it's a bit of an upset that Hrgović beat him. I don't think so. Hrgović didn't win. I don't think so. I think Dubois was really the one who's in the ascendancy at the moment. But I suppose Hrgović was the number 1 contender. No more. Well, he will be, won't he, actually? He might get a rematch. But I'd like to see them fight again because neither of them had much defence, but they had a lot of offence, and I like that a lot. Unlike the next fight, where Deontay Wilder had said that he might consider, if he lost, retiring. We don't hear anything about the retirement yet, but I think you can guess from what I've just said whether he won or not. It was pitiful, is the word I think I'm using, and I think I'm right. Throughout the fight, the commentary team was saying he's not letting that punch go. No, he's not, is he? Only in, was it the 7th? Was it the 6th? It's a few days ago, viewers. And, when you get to my age, you don't retain all that information sometimes. But only when he came out and started punching, only in his final round did he do that. And it brought about an inevitable end. But Zhang didn't seem to really be up for it either. There's nothing at stake, is there? And I suppose Zhang's thinking, well, I was the champion. I can't wait to get back in the ring with Joseph Parker. Joseph Parker was at ringside. And I'll beat him next time. He probably will. And I'll get my title back. That'll be business as usual. But this is just a diversion, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And, you know, Deontay Wilder has not been around boxing for hadn't been around boxing for quite some time. One punch knockout against Hellenius, I think it was, wasn't it? First round. And then a very bad fight after that. And this was blooming awful as well. He looked as though he was just gun shy. I mean, Tyson Fury getting up after your biggest punch in that third match, should I say, of the trilogy, must break your heart. And I don't think he's been the same fighter since, clearly. And I think he should retire because he didn't really give us any offense at all. I mean, he might have been concerned that what would come back from Zhang, but actually, as a boxer, you have to take that, don't you? And if something comes back you don't like, then you have to take that. You have to do it, don't you? You have to take a punch sometimes to give a punch, or take one to give two, or whatever, or punch when they're punching, or take a counter so you can have another punch. Punch. And it was ever so boring. Because at no point did Zhang think, clearly he didn't think, right, I've got the measure of this. After the first minute, I'll batter him and senseless because my punches can get through. He didn't seem at it either. I think he was thinking, this is the great Deontay Wilder. I can't beat him to a pulp. Well, you can. I mean, morally and personally, you might feel you can't. But as far as the talent you've got and the situation at the moment, yeah, you can. You can batter him to a pump. But to a pump, you couldn't batter him into a pump because if you brought a pump into the ring, that would probably be a disqualification. It's not like wrestling where there's no DQ. Although that can't be long. We've had tag team wrestling already, or tag team boxing already. Surely it can't be long before you can bring items into the ring. Do you know what I mean? And it's a right hook with a tire iron sort of thing. Anyway, yeah, he could beat him to a pulp, and he didn't. And eventually, he caught him with what wasn't even, I don't think, a solid right hand. Well, it didn't look like that. It looked like he just glanced him. Sometimes that's a concussive punch. I'm aware of that. But it didn't look like it was full force. And Deontay Wilder turned his back completely, crumpled in the corner, got up, but the ref said, no. I've had enough of this. I'm bored with it. I think we'll leave it at that. He didn't say that. No, he didn't say that. But terrible fight. And this is the business of boxing. Bringing the boxing of boxing to us, which doesn't live up. That's sometimes what happens, isn't it, with boxing? But the business of boxing was beautifully done. Great idea. Not too egregious stuff. Not that kind of spats that you get on Twitter or X. That name change hasn't really taken, has it? Not really. Anyway, didn't get any of that. You knew what you were fighting for. Pride. Eddie Hearn was very upset because I think it was 10-0. I don't think he won one. Or his team didn't win one. His crew didn't win one. But as a mark of the man, I haven't seen Frank Warren going, yeah. You see, 10-0. He hasn't done any of that. And Eddie Hearn, as a mark of the man, has been very honest about, I'm gutted. So that's the way to sell it, to paraphrase Mr. Punch, who I really love his work. Not all of his work. I don't agree with throwing your baby down the stairs or, attacking your wife. That would, of course not. But his attention to detail with authority figures, blimey. Anyway, let's not get into a discourse about that. Yeah, it was a really good roll up. Just a shame that one of the fights didn't really live up, and Deontay Wilder should retire. He hasn't said he's going to yet, but surely it can't be long coming. Right, on to the business of boxing. Mike Tyson isn't fighting anybody anytime soon. Because what? Why, folks? Well, as I said last week, he's got an ulcer. What are the Texas Commission, who agreed to give him a license, and what are the... I mean, this is a proper fight against Jake Paul, in that it will be on their records. And I mean, Tyson's record's not that good, is it? He's 58. But what were they doing? When they said, yeah, you can have a license, but don't work the body because he's got an ulcer and it could explode. And as I said last week, I don't want to see him throwing up bile in the ring. To be honest, I really don't. And he won't be fighting. That's it. It's put back now. I don't know if it's completely gone, but it's put back. It's a bit of a disgrace, isn't it? And it doesn't help either Mike Tyson, but in a way he's got less to lose because he's the kind of plucky underdog, really, isn't he? But it certainly doesn't help Jake Paul, who wants to be taken seriously. Well, don't fight Mike Tyson. I've said this many times, haven't I, to you, Jake? Don't fight Mike Tyson then. Fight a boxer. And keep fighting boxers until you ascend that ladder and you're fighting for a title. It, unfortunately for you, can take several years. And we don't have several years in this always-on media, social media, media frenzy world, do we? But we should. Okay. So that's that. No other ideas as to who might fight. Just a couple of other items for you this week. I don't want to overburden you. Mauricio Sullivan, WBC head honcho, has said what he wants is 6 people round the ring. 6 people round the ring to make those points decisions. Why? Is it to stop the unanimous decision thing? Then the split decision, or long, egregious, some people think wide of the mark stuff, like 111, 117 for Cattrall and Josh Taylor last week, that some people, Bob Arum included, thought that it was too big. It probably was, but then that's the human nature of this, isn't it? So do you think that having 6 judges, that's the word, judges around the ring, do you think that's going to make things different? It's not going to make them any less florid, is it? Just because you've got 6 round the ring doesn't mean that none of them are going to score it 110, 119 or something, or 460 to 2. You can't do that. Of course you can't. But or 117 to 111, It just means that you might get more of them doing it. Well, there were only 2 judges who did it with the Cattrall and Taylor fight. And in the Cattrall and Taylor third fight with six judges, 5 of them did it. So I'm even more angry now that 5 did it. Why does he want 6 round the ring? Why is that? Or is it to stop those majority decisions? Like the Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. Oh, perish the thought. Where Usyk, I thought, clearly won and got a majority decision. And And it was close. That's the whole thing. It's close. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Because he got 6 round the ring. It doesn't make any difference, does it? Because it could still be 4-2, couldn't it? Rather than 2-1. Oh, I don't know. I just think it's that kind of thing. Well, I think we should have different lighting. Well, I think we should have a different coloured canvas. Maybe they could wear platform shoes rather than and flares for a 70s throwback boxing night. Maybe that's what we should do. It's like a gimmick, doesn't it? And boxing doesn't need any more gimmicks, does it? Talking of gimmicks, Ryangarcia. We're going to have a week without him, but no. This is breaking news, so we don't know. In a hotel, and the police were called. We don't know why, but we do know, or it's reported, should I say. We don't know, do we? But it's reported that some drinking was taking place with that particular boxer. And the police had to be called. And I think they've said he's not a danger to himself or others, but the police were called. Now, I don't know whether they thought, Ryangarcia's in, better be careful. And if somebody else was in their cups and creating a bit of trouble, you'd say, come on, son, come on, sir, you've had enough, let's escort you back to your room. Whereas with Ryangarcia, because of all of the shenanigans that he's been involved in, you go, Ryangarcia's in. Right. Oh, yeah, he's dropped a peanut. He's dropped a peanut. Let's call the police. I don't know if it's that. I'm not sure. And we don't know yet, do we? But it doesn't help when you're constantly in the media. And he has been in the media recently talking about one of his family members who is ill at the moment. I believe it's reported as being cancer. I think it's his mum. And, this is really sad stuff. And, he's got a lot stacked up in his mind at the moment and in his life. Quite a lot of it of his own doing, it has to be said. So maybe that's a problem. I don't know what's going to happen going forward when he's not, because he will get suspended, won't he? He's got to bring up his. He's got to decide his own explanation now and get his bundle together for his lawyers, I suppose. But if he is suspended, and which it looks like, I suspect he will be. I don't know, but it's looking like that, isn't it? But still, I don't know. Might be completely exonerated. Who knows? But if he is suspended and he can't do anything, and then I worry about that behaviour. And that's what boxing does, because that's the business of boxing. And sometimes you think you can get on with just the business of boxing, but you can't. One of these days, you have to get into the ring and actually do the boxing of boxing. And you have to do it under your own steam and not, allegedly, under the effects of anything else. That's the boxing of boxing. Sometimes the business of boxing takes over. And that isn't always a good look. Ta-ta.